Amazing.
Make it all happen.
Make it all happen. That's right. Blake.
I feel good for the first time all year.
Good. That is amazing. What was crickets your answer, or do you have another answer?
Cricket's not mine.
Okay, good.
My wife didn't like my ringtone.
That's exactly how I'm feeling at home right now. So
That's my answer too.
yeah, how are you feeling?
Be more going on than
Sure.
what's going on, and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and temporarily I've taken a part-time job at in success, just kind of fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah.
No telling who I'll meet there.
That's right.
But just
Yeah.
plug it away. Their chance.
You've already met.
Yeah.
Huh?
Who you've already met.
Oh, it's you, the billionaire.
Wow.
I want to vote.
No, she's married.
Okay, we are live streaming. We cannot be here because kids, sorry. How are you feeling? Yeah, how are you
I'm
feeling?
feeling good. I kind of feel like Blake. I moved down a year ago and I feel like I finally have my bearings.
Yeah.
Down here, and I'm excited. I always get excited for New Year's, fresh start, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So raise your hand if you have that like optimism and excitedness for like January to roll around. Raise your hand.
Yeah, but scared too.
Raise your hand if you want to fucking throw up. I do. Now let me tell you why. Because all year long I've gotten to watch my beautiful CTE grow. I get to see all these big old numbers, right? We're like breathing down the neck of a 1 in the front of our closed production this year, and like it's so exciting. Although the crickets right now might bring us in a little short, but I want to throw up because I know on December 31st, now I do have some sales lined up for 25, obviously, but like we have to just start again. Like everything goes to 0. And for me, where I am in my career, it feels gross and disgusting because I'm like, ugh, why am I doing this? Why am I going to put myself through what I just put myself through last year, trying to kill myself to get to this point to start all over? And so what I think is cool about rooms like this is you have so many different perspectives. There's probably a good chunk of us that are very optimistic, excited for 25 to start. Some of us are starting it with more apprehension, and that's all reflected in just where we are in our careers. But one thing that I really want to touch on today, and actually it's funny because I was inspired yesterday, I was going to do something very different. And we started talking about just like mindset and things like that on our Empower call yesterday. And I wanted to open up, have anyone read, I almost said eaten, read Leaders Eat Last? I almost said anyone read it?
It's on my list.
Oh, okay. Today, for small business owners, I am going, which we all are, I'm going to take what I think is the most powerful chapter of that entire book. And I'm going to break down what is my huge takeaway. And it's something that I go back to and I try to go back to at least once a quarter with my team to just remind them what we're feeling is related to things like literally chemical reactions that are happening in our brain. And how do we get control over these things so that we can push forward and move into 25 so I don't have to feel like I'm going to throw up all the time, which is how I feel currently. So the first thing I want to do is, a lot of times we take our, first, can you just scan this and sign in? So we just want to make sure that if you're here, you get these resources. So this will just take you to scan us your email and your name. I know you fill this out every single week.
Yeah, you won't get spammed any more than you already are from Agents Empowered. It's just, I want to make a list of who's here to then be able to resend the resources out. That's all.
Unless you find the resources done, and then you can tell me you don't want me to send them to you, which is fine as well. Have I got it? Does it work?
Yeah.
I didn't test it. I've gotten really confident in my QR code abilities. These days I don't test it anymore. I want to start right here. So some of you are newer in the business, and so this is going to feel like you don't have the full picture. So I don't want you to feel like you're not able to participate in this. But for those of us that have just finished out at least our full second year, we talk about how are we feeling. I really like to know, well, how should we be feeling based on the performance that we've given this year? So I want you to just take a second for those of us that have these numbers. And I want to take this year's sales, right? So go ahead and take your production or your production number. So this should be, hopefully something in the millions. If you've been in production, you didn't sell anything that hit $1 million this year. Like that's okay, but hopefully for most of us, it's gonna be in the millions. We're going to take this year's sales, subtract out last year's sales. Hopefully that is going to give you a positive number. It may not, and that's okay. But I just want to see what is your business growth rate, right? Over last year to this year. And if anyone is so bold to share those numbers, I would love to hear some of those numbers. Our team was, if we, and I think we will be 63% over last year. So I'd love to hear some other numbers from folks in the group. And we're there, by the way, because we have amazing partners like you guys that challenge us and teach us new things and inspire us to start over on January 1st when we really just want to say, maybe this is not for me anymore. And if you have a number that went the opposite direction, I encourage you still share that number. Let's see where we are. 26%, 27%. Positive. Great job.
SGCI or units?
That should be sales volume. Okay.
So we are down 1.7.
1.7. From where you're projecting to end.
Yeah, unless any of these spaces want to really like slim comes and shit this week.
I know, that's what sucks about this week. This week is like, this is it, man. My 63.79 might be declining by the minute. Yes. Anybody else have a growth number?
I don't know my number.
Okay,
I
great.
took a picture of it and I was there.
Well, take a picture of this because this is something that's really important to know. If you're not doing this on, a year by year basis, or you can do this by quarter basis or whatever it is, I think it's really important to go in here and kind of know what does your growth rate look year over year. The next piece to this though is to figure out, because that's great, that's how you did against yourself. But one of the important things I think to be aware of is how did you do against your market? Right? What did your market do? So Allison ran your numbers for you today. Allison, do you want to explain how you came to your?
Yeah, so you guys can do this however you want to do this from a marketing standpoint for social media, which I would encourage you, because I would guess that most of you are outpacing the local markets. The national markets are down extremely.
35%, I think, is what we were told. In transaction count, we're looking at transaction count. Prices have stayed very steady in most of our areas, but transaction count, worst year since 95. We're down 30% across the country on average, 30 to 35%.
So
Worst year since 95.
The way that you can do any of your statistics you want, I decided to go off of closed sales here, and I just pulled these 3 zip codes. If you wanted to add up 15 zip codes, or do all of Bluffton, or do just, Fort Island or whatever, you can use, I just use the intranet, the MLS internet or MLS. But what we did was we just averaged the 3 of these. You can see that 29906 is down a lot more. It's kind of an outlier, but we went ahead and just averaged that.
And so we came to the number of Beaufort was down 5.3%. Again, significantly better than the rest of the country. So that's so encouraging to you guys. Raleigh, Durham, this might surprise you, we're down 14%.
Wow.
Hottest market in the country, down 14%. Obviously, it's because we've been so hot, right? So when things fell off, we feel it a little bit harder. I think we're right behind Nashville or right ahead of Nashville. I think we're outperforming Nashville right now.
And you're not gonna go to Donald Miller, like story brand and everything, but you've taught on this and we can share those resources. But I think the biggest thing is like, what is this messaging saying to the public? Are you going to use this messaging when we leave here? So we're not just telling you this to say, look, you guys are outpacing the market. We're saying this to say, make this public. Talk to your clients, talk to social media and say, look, this is what the market is doing and I'm outpacing the market. We as a brokerage are outpacing the market, because it really paints a pretty strong picture when everybody is saying the market is so down and we're actually outpacing our local market.
Yeah, and that's why don't rely on that feeling, right? Because my feeling right now is Walter's ringtone, right? It's crickets. And in that moment, I feel so gross and I feel so bad. And I think that's leading to the reason why I don't want to see that clock turn on the end of the year and all my numbers reset to 0. Because what if I can't build a business like I did this year? And what if it doesn't turn out like it does? And what if I don't hit the goals that I've set? And we let a lot of that like come into our brain, and I'm going to show you why. But when I go back to this number and I say, well, Anna, our team is up 77.8% this year on our local market. Why am I entering 2025 with such reserve and anxiety? So for those of you that are optimistic, I want to bottle up all the things you have. For those of us that express like I have a little bit of anxiety going in, I'm not sure, I'm feeling a little scattered, I'm feeling a little torn. I think this is a really great place to start when you can go run your numbers and figure out, but where are we relative to the market? Let's use that fact to then kind of drive and remind our brain that we're in a likely a very good spot. You guys are great producers in this room. Sound good? So going along with this, I want to go into this conversation that Simon Sinek has so closely. And again, I really wanted to, I'll do some tactical stuff at the end, but I wanted to make sure we had a chance to talk about this. The big thing here he talks about is just how much the human brain relies on these chemicals that come to our brain to regulate our mood, behavior, and just how we function, right? And you're gonna see, we're gonna talk about dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and cortisol today. But this was a really big thing that changed my perspective. Again, I try to revisit it once a quarter so that I have a handle on it, because if I just go on how I'm feeling today, I am feeling bad. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling concerned. I'm feeling, can I lead this team next year to do what we did already? Are we going to be a failure if we don't hit those things? And so one of the big things here is number one, and we talk about this at our team, is how do we get endorphins going into our world, right? So endorphins act as natural painkillers. They're released during physical exertion and stress. So literally I go to the gym every day just to hunt these guys down. And if you understand the creation and the development of humans, it was literally done in order to allow them to go hunt and to provide and to survive. So again, this is one of those things where, how do you get endorphins in your day? How do you get this feeling? I would encourage a lot of you guys, if you're not finding ways to pump this into your system, figure that out. But I love this quote from Stephen Colbert: you can't laugh and be afraid at the same time. So Eli, I think you kind of did it. You're like, I'm anxious. I'm so nervous. I do it all the time. And so one of the things I think is you're going through and you're getting through this period of time where we're going into the next year, find your community over the next few weeks. Get with someone. Start talking about, how am I going to plan for next year? Make sure your community, don't isolate away from a community in a time like right now, because I do think that there's a lot of noise out there. It's been a wild couple of weeks. And so this is one of the things that we've really been focused on our team, is how can we get in the office together? How can we go grab lunch together? Focus on those things right now, because I do think it's going to set you up for a lot of success, as silly as it sounds. I want to get into this conversation about dopamine, because I could literally hear it in how we went around the room and described things. All right. For me, a listing appointment, a listing taken, a buyer under contract, good feedback on showing time on one of my listings, I used to get this rush of dopamine every single time. As real estate agents, every single person in this room, you are all addicted to dopamine. That's why you are in this industry. I'm serious. Every single one of those moments in your life, it's a hit, it's a hit, it's a hit, it's a hit. And literally, I think about a year and a half ago, I started to realize that my whole life was just a string of a dopamine hit to a dopamine hit to a dopamine hit. And again, some of the reason why we hear those differences in how people are feeling, those of you that are feeling good and hopeful and excited, like your ability to take in that dopamine and it sustain you lasts longer than mine does now. Because you call me up and tell me you want to list a house right now, I'm like, fudge. I gotta do all the things. I gotta do all these things. I gotta get all this stuff together. And a newer agent, right? Someone calls you up and says you want to list a house. What are you doing, newer agents?
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. You're so excited. And for me, and again, like this just goes to show, being in rooms with multiple levels of experience and how long we've been in the business matters. Like, I don't get that rush of dopamine like I do here. So now I have to go start looking for more things to chase that dopamine with, right? What can I start filling myself with? So again, we get this sense of anticipation and excitement, and it's really important. So new agents, the best thing I can tell you is go get some of this dopamine in your life. We see it all the time. If you are in a rut in your business, go get a hit of dopamine. Go get a listing. Go get a Chris. Am I doing this right? Am I explaining this medical stuff correctly? Great. Okay. I forgot there's a medical professional here, and I immediately just like slowed down in my chair.
Well, I guess we have somebody that needs a medical assistance that I just want to pray. So
Perfect. Can you dig my ears out too? So we talk. I see this all the time. I have an agent on our team that like goes weeks and weeks and weeks, and there's no prospecting happening, and then there's no sales, and there's nothing going on. And all we usually have to do, guys, is just like get a win in there, get that dopamine hit, and they'll go and search for more. So when you ever find yourself in your rut, please understand, in all fairness, to survive in this industry, yes, you need deals because you need to get paid at the end of the day. But what you're actually chasing down is a freaking dopamine hit. That's it. What you have to realize after time, if the dopamine is the only thing that you're chasing, you're gonna have the feeling that I feel when I know that my CTE is gonna get wiped out and all those accumulated hits of dopamine are now zeroed out. I'm sitting here wondering, but I just exhausted myself. I just missed how many important moments with my children. I just had my husband think that I'm a psychopath 18 times this year. Like whatever it was, all of it for these little dopamine hits. And again, once it erases, I'm just looking for the next thing, right? It's highly, highly, highly addictive. But what we look at here is that the dopamine hits can occur when you have really measurable goals. And that can be a healthy use of it to get your business up and going. What I want to teach you today, though, is that you cannot survive on this. You will burn out and you will be done with real estate. And all the time that you gave up with those children and your spouses and your partners, it will all be for naught because you won't have what you need to sustain. And I'm living proof of this because a year and a half ago, I thought, why on earth was I showing a house a week after I delivered twins? And I have to reset every single year. Social media is triggered to do this, right? I do it all the time. I'll post something like, that was so smart. That's so smart. And then now Instagram makes it hard to see how many likes you have. So you have to like go away from it and come back in and repress it to see how many likes you have. That's how addicted I am to this. My Facebook Lives, I just discovered Facebook Lives. Hot tip, write this down. If you want to change your business in 30 days, go get on Facebook Live 3 to 4 times a week. I've taken 4 listings, 5 listings off of this in 3 weeks.
Did anyone watch Michelle Vega on Agents Empowered? I mean, you would not forget her, the Pepsi girl.
Yes.
So she said do Facebook Live. Anna implemented that the next day.
You did, I've been watching you.
And what have you gotten out of that 5 listings?
Yeah, and in two cases, they were lot buys that I was able to then go take directly over to our builders, like literally like hand deliver like off market lots to our builders, which is the best dopamine hit for me right now in my business. Because I gotta keep them happy. But like literally I do this. I'm just looking like who's seen it? How many views did I get? Who liked it? Who's texted me back? I sent all my pie invitations on the way down last night and just sitting there watching my phone, waiting for someone to be like, that's so kind of you. You're so amazing. Because I'm looking for that dopamine hit. But in the business that we're in right now, we're doing a lot of these things that we're putting ourselves in a position where we need, like we're receiving those hits. So just knowing that it's really addictive. But what I want to encourage you guys to make sure that just with those dopamine hits that keep your business going, that in life, you're also looking for a balance and you're making sure that you're finding some room, lots and lots of room for what we call these selfless chemicals. Serotonin. Serotonin is literally created when you feel like you belong in part of the community. So team members, this is what your team leaders are trying to produce for you. An environment where you feel like this is where I belong. As EXP agents, this is what we're trying to, that's why I'm here today. I want to boost everyone's serotonin levels. I think it's great if you go sell more houses because I teach you something or can share something that I've learned from someone else. But for me, this has been the really big thing. So it's a neurotransmitter that regulates mood, social behavior, appetite, digestion, sleep, memory, and sexual function. You're all welcome. Tell your spouses I really worked on you today. It is often associated with feelings of well-being, happiness, pride, makes us feel strong and confident, raises status. So what happens is most of the time is we keep looking for these dopamine hits to give us this sensation, and it will never do it. Does that make sense? Everyone following? So literally this was crucial for maintaining social hierarchies, which I think is really fascinating. If you look at kind of the evolutionary development of this, it helps promote group cohesion, stability. I think in our world today, we can all agree that maybe our world needs a little more serotonin. We all need to figure out how to have social hierarchies, how to be together in the same space. But this literally is created because you have community. And what I think is important is that you can take this down on your level of sales too. How much serotonin are you providing your clients? Are you providing them constant hits of dopamine? Offer accepted. Inspection report went great. How many of those highs are we giving them and how much community are we actually putting into our actual client experience? And that's one of the things that we've been looking at over the last few weeks. All of our touch points, because we're doing whatever, hospitality, whatever the first adjective is. What is it called?
Bitch.
No. The first word of the hospitality book. Unreasonable. I can't ever think of the word. I'm always like, I don't know, whatever the word is.
I'm sorry.
But we've been looking at, how many touch points are in our clients. Like, how many times do we reach out to the client in the process? We realized, number one, we didn't reach out enough. And number two, we realized that when we were reaching out, it was a high dopamine moment. You didn't get the offer, right? There's a quarter, but like, it's all these heightened moments. There was never kind of a level of just community that we were providing in those touch points within the transaction. We do it great throughout the rest of the year, but in transaction, we did it. And I think this is really, again, going into our sales, those who work hardest to see the group succeed will be seen as a leader. So I believe in our markets today that consumers are looking for leadership. Raise your hand if you believe that. The days of, I'm calling up someone, I just want them to open the door, like maybe that's what they say to you, but they choose the agent that they want to work with based on how hard, how well, how committed can this person lead. And that's why we've been really focused on this in our team this year, because I want to make sure that every single agent on our team knows, like, you are a leader in this role as a real estate agent. And those that are followers are going to be more motivated to meet goals and succeed if they know that they're following a leader who wants the best for the group. And again, this all can be literally created. You can do all of these things by just making sure that you're putting yourself in a position that serotonin is flowing through. Oxytocin is our love hormone, associated with bonding, trust, empathy, social connection. I will never forget this when my mom passed away. I had a lady be like, just hold your babies, like touch them, like love on them. And I thought, oh, this is weird, okay. But she was right, because literally just like touching the babies and loving the babies literally pumps oxytocin into our system. Literally just physical touch can give you that oxytocin. And so again, this creates safety, support, and acts of kindness, right? This is where we talk about within our team. Acts of kindness and trust within our team can further increase oxytocin levels, reinforce social interactions and collaboration. And so these are the things that I feel like we've just got to be able to go and chase. It makes us good to people. And what's amazing is, if I see someone doing something great for someone and that oxytocin comes into me, I'm more likely to pass it. So it literally is like contagious. The paying it forward here absolutely works. So if you're ever in a week where you're like, I just feel like the world is against me, I just feel like nothing's working out, what's an act of service that you can provide, right? That can just send off oxytocin through your local organization, through your database, right? Through your connection, through your community. What I think is amazing is it boosts our immune system, makes us better problem solvers, and makes us more resistant to what is literally the only thing that's going to solve and get you off the wheel of hit. And the hit is what defines how are you feeling. And if we make all of our business decisions and we are reactive to things that are going on just based on how we're feeling, we've missed this entire complex piece that I think is going to be so important. And I think it's what's going to allow you guys to be sitting here 12 months from now when we say, how are you feeling going into 2026? And you'll start to hear less anxiety. You'll start to hear agents that are newer, maybe have a little bit more of that. I don't know, because I had such a great year this year. I'm anxious about, can I do that again? And you'll start to hear some of these dynamics change. But I absolutely believe that, like, as real estate agents, we have a dopamine addiction problem. And that is why when the market slowed down like it did, you watched so many of your peers peace out. Because they could not get the dopamine hit. And when they couldn't get the dopamine hit, the purpose of doing this went away. Can I get an amen? Amen. So true, though. So again, I'll just talk on this really quickly. That anxiety, that stress, that cortisol that comes in our body. I feel like it's all the way, it's on my Instagram everywhere now. I've been geofenced by cortisol for the last, like, I don't know, 8 months. But this is kind of your fight or flight response. And so, like, I know right now, and that's why I was really transparent and sharing my anxiety about the crickets noise. It brought me anxiety because I know I've got 30 agents back home that are like, what's up? Where's the business? Right? We kept saying this was going to turn a corner. Where my lead at? Right? I have things going on in my personal life where I'm like, oh, should I be doing this? Right? That cortisol. Should I do it? Should I not? Should I do it? Should I not? And so what happens is in the short term, cortisol can be really powerful too. It can enhance your memory. It can do really good things for your body in 2 seconds time, right? In that initial like fight or flight, it can give you some really good reactionary moments. But just be reminded that this can't stay in your system in a long time. Raise your hand if you think realtors probably have high levels of cortisol. So again, guys, we're living in a world where like we go from dopamine to cortisol, from dopamine to cortisol. And what's amazing is all the things in between that can protect you from both of these things having literally bad effects on your health. Raise your hand. Can be solved by community. And that does not necessarily mean you have to be on a team to find that. That means this community broadly. That means your community of your database that if you're not working through and you're not going and touching and you're not going in and taking care of, literally think about the multi-valued function of that. I'm going to go take care of someone in my database, right? And I've seen it through a new lens, I feel like in the last couple of weeks, but I saw a mom that we just sold a house to. Kid got walking pneumonia, which I guess is going around everywhere. And we sent a care package, right? I felt so good doing that. It helped my business. I felt good. She felt good, right? All the good things that came from just taking that little extra step of making sure that community is involved instead of being concerned with, you know, oh my gosh, we have to get her tax documents out for her sale by the end of the year, right? What a greater touch, I think. And so the fact that we can really create that oxytocin and serotonin in our world, I think it's really powerful. Just a reminder that the stress you feel is real, right? It's real, but it's literally just a reaction to the chemicals in your bloodstream. I always say this, there's 2 things that I think are big takeaways here. You can't always control your first reaction, but you can always control the second one. I think that's a really big testament here. And the second big thing that we take away from this is do not make long-term decisions on very short-term discomforts, right? Don't let the chemicals that are rushing your brain drive very long-term decisions in your business, in your personal lives, wherever this applies. Yeah. And again, if you don't feel a circle of safety, that cortisol is going to drip. So again, how going into 2025, when I feel like we've lost agents, the market's compressed, things have tightened down, how do we make sure that we're putting ourselves in positions where oxytocin can really free flow? And what I think is really powerful about what we do for a living is realtors can be very good at getting together and collaborating and sharing and being part of each other's communities, but we also can provide that to our clients. And how well you do that to your clients literally is a direct representation, I believe, of what ends up in your bank account at the end of the year. So just thinking about all the positive effects of really just allowing ourselves to say, I got to stop this cortisol drip. I got to get this dopamine hit problem under control. And I've really got to focus on what's going to give myself, in my opinion, a true like work-life balance. Because this stuff is not meant to be here long-term. It's meant to be short-term. In fact, this was a huge takeaway with some agents on our team this summer that were in the throes of really, really big months that ended up with a lot of like, you know, immediate like health issues. And I'm confident, I know it's because they couldn't handle some of that stress. So my belief is work-life balance, which we're going to absolutely have to take, because if 2025, even if it inches up incrementally, I think will be another full year of a lot of work for numbers that are going to feel very hard to scrap for. And how do we make sure that we make it through the end of next year? And I think absolutely 100% we've got to focus on getting these levels of oxytocin and serotonin naturally higher in our systems. And I want you guys to know, however I can help you do that going into next year, that's what I'm really focused on, especially with our agent community, because I'm to be honest with you, I like you guys a lot more than I like buyers and sellers. Your expectations seem to be somewhat normalized from theirs. I take a second here. I just want to know, did this resonate with anyone? Did this help?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are some, sorry, I keep staring at
I
you.
know you do.
Are you
somewhere else?
Are you a Turner? Okay.
Look somewhere else.
Some, I can't. You're my most look, see, watch my body language. I'm holding up my protective barrier and I'm looking to you for emotional support. What, I just think it's vulnerable to talk about because it's like, it's not like circle prospecting and it's not this, but I think it's really like at the heart of like what's going on in our world. What are some takeaways from there that anybody would be willing to share?
I should do a for real estate.
Yes, you should.
Yes. So this happened to me. So like what, 5 years ago? 5 years ago. It was like the height of my business and I was crushing it. Like I was making 6 figures a month, like. I was on a total high, couldn't tell me nothing. And then I had stress-induced Bell's palsy, where it put me in the hospital and it was like COVID. And that is when I said, enough is enough, and like had to dig deeper in myself, created the team, did all the things. Because it just brought me back to that reality that it doesn't matter, and like learning about all of this, had I known some of what you just shared back then. Maybe I could have had a deeper balance of it, and I wouldn't have ended up in the hospital for 3 days thinking I had a stroke, and you know what I mean, so.
Yeah.
Like this resonates deeply with me because it's personal, because I felt that
Yeah.
before, so
Same.
it's real, like that balance is hard.
Any newer agents have any takeaways from that?
I guess the question I have is like, you sort of like communicated that you're stressed about like your number of closings, your volume in this, like, can you look at an activity that doesn't give you stress, like not necessarily like a product of something else, like maybe a number of phone calls you're gonna make a day, focus on like the boring stuff,
Mhm.
so you're not having stress of the results, like the results business and cortisol. and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, I mean, the measurables every day that tell you I've done what I need to do to be in the position that I need to be in. Yeah, and that's why, and that's where dopamine can be like really good, because it's created, right, to turn that into a habit. I always give this example. When I first started going to the gym regularly, I had to like post on social media every day, juice pig, that I'd gone to the gym. And that was like it's weird, like I got the endorphins in the gym, but that was my dopamine hit, right? Of like, I did the little thing and I did it consistently. I don't need that anymore. I just go to the gym. I don't need the social media post anymore. And that's a perfect example of how dopamine can work very well in that case, right? Dopamine, you get the little hit because you get the little win because you had a clear measurable. And I think one of the slides literally says you have to have clear measurables for this to work for you. But the reality there is that those things just become habits, right? That are part of your every single day. And like that's where dopamine can be super helpful. But if we are literally running on, I have to have this hit and that's all that I have sustaining me, again, there just will come a point where the money's not enough, the accolades are not enough, and you're gonna sit there at the end of the year and say, ugh, why did I do this? It happens to everyone. You ask anybody that has been a top producer in a brokerage and has all the trophies on the thing. I have a Centurion trophy in my office, like I could throw up on, because I know I know how much it cost me, but number two, I know what I gave up that year personally for that. And again, when I started all over at the beginning of the year, I was the same as a brand new agent, you know what I mean? Yes, I had the tools, yes, I had the book of business, but the reality is it really can be a very big letdown this time of year for some people, because we know we just have to go start again and do it again next year.
I remember my second year, right, then, was talking and then, like, just hit me on the back, pat me on the back, and was like, well, can't wait to see when you burn out. I remember being like,
Seriously.
I'm not gonna burn out, like, no. And for anybody that's been doing this more than 24 months, I mean, who can legit say that they feel it, that they feel the burnout, that it's happening in some way, shape, or form?
Raise your hand if you felt burnout in 2024.
I remember when.
I get raised to it.
Christian came to me, he was like, you know, I was a new kid on the block, you know, came to town, started selling doorknobs and made it to the top of the MLS, and I was just killing it, and I was like, why are you doing, why aren't you selling anything, dude, you're just like chilling. And he was like, you're gonna burn out, he's like, and he said, when you have kids, you'll understand that going to a baseball game or a t-ball game is gonna be more important to you than selling a house. He's like, I'll bring my business back when I want to bring it back. Look at it now. I mean, he's, you know, they cultivated that and they're doing good again. But it's one of those things where, like, and I told him, I saw him at the yacht club event. I said, man, that really resonated with me. I thought you were stupid at the time. But I completely understand where you're at. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, I was cocky and I was like,
I was talking to a guy the other night. We were at the bar having a drink, and I told him, he was like, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna kill, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I'm like, not, you're gonna regret it. So you spend time with your kids. Like, you still have a good business and a good work-life balance. Like, you really can.
That's it. And I think that's the point of this, is like, just don't make it be the dopamine hit, the dopamine hit, the dopamine hit, the I sold a house, I got a client. And I'm guilty of it, because like I'll look at my phone right now, I'm like, oh, someone's writing an offer, like dopamine hit. I just got it, like right there on my phone. But if we feel like that's the only thing that's taking us from point A to point B, then it's just going to be disappointing.
It's lonely.
Mhm.
Sitting there all sad.
Yeah.
Forget
And that's why I opened with how are you feeling? Because so many of us really do kind of judge our success and our metrics on not really the things we should be looking at. Like you mentioned, Chris, like what are the conversations I've had and what's the consistency of those conversations and what does the pipeline look like? But we just make decisions on how are we feeling right now. And I'm guilty of it myself. I'm more guilty of it in my personal life than I am in my professional life at this point. So I have a lot of maturing to do on that front because instead of growing up as a personal person, I grew up as a work professional for the last 3 years. Okay, if you have paper, take it out. If not, I'll try to walk you through this and I'll send you something that you can work on. But I know most of us are doing our business planning. Now, hopefully you're wrapping it up if you're not already. Our team is done on Thursday next week, so we're right here in the throes. Raise your hand if you already have your business plan laid out and you know where you're headed this year. Looking at there. Great. It's a good room to do this exercise in. That's good. So, has anyone done Jeff Glover Sales Rocket in here? No Jeff Glover coaches in here? Great. I had the privilege of being able to be in person with Jeff this fall, thanks to Tina Call putting a room together up in the Raleigh area. And I wanted to show you one of the smartest things I feel like I've seen anyone put together. And what I may do is just go ahead and get my, oh, it's gonna be on me now. Yikes. Ooh, that's terrible. I can't look at my chin. Sorry. I was on a Zoom earlier and I had to like move and like the whole time I was like, and move like this. Like I was tricking them. And then I like sat down on the bed and I was like with 2 men. I was like, this is probably weird. I want to show you, and I'm gonna use my typing here to kind of go through this. How many of you have a good sense of the amount of money that you want to make in 2025? Who has a monetary goal? Raise your hand, please. Raise your hand really high. Who has monetary goals for 2025? Okay.
I think you were asking what it was.
No. I don't need to hear what it is. I just want to be sure everyone has monetary goals. For those of you that do, how did you get to that number? What were the factors that you put into that monetary goal? Okay, you can't answer. Somebody else. Yeah. Okay, perfect. How many of you based it first off on the amount of money that you need to survive? Who started there? Like, this is what my mortgage is. This is what my car payment is. This is what my Botox costs. This is what, I'm just kidding. But like, who knows the needs column of what it costs for them to survive at least monthly, right? That's usually where most people will start. Sometimes people will say, well, I know how many houses I want to sell this year and I know how to back end there, right? I know how many houses I actually want to sell, how many transactions I want to do. So you can approach it from either direction. For me, sole breadwinner in my household, I got to know how much money I got to make, right? First and foremost. I have some agents on my team, like their income goes to take them to Disney World and pay for kids' sports and yeah, things like that. So like it really can be set by how many transactions do I want to run this year to make my life feel sufficient. So however you get there is completely dependent on what are your needs and what are your wants and what do you have to cover first. So for me, I know how much income that I need to make to, especially in a team lead position, be able to pay my salaries, pay our overhead, pay our bills every month, pay our family, and grow something that's sustainable for the agents coming up in the next year. What comes next, obviously, is that we typically, and these go hand in hand, we start figuring out what does that transaction count look like. So maybe no one wants to share their income number. I think it's very healthy to talk about how much money you want to make. I think when we shy away from it, we kind of put a scarcity mindset on it. But who has a transaction count for next year that they know that's where they want to be? 50 deals. Personal 50. 24. 40. Other numbers? 50 together as a team. 36. 150 for the team. How many sales are you going to have next year, Walter? 24. It's a very common number. It's a very good number. Okay, here's what we normally, that's what transaction is. Here's what we normally see. what happens with most of us, and again, I think it all ties back to that dopamine, it all ties back to that cortisol. Agents get stuck in this little rung right here. We will spend a decade focusing on, this is the transaction count I need to make this income, transaction count for this income, transaction count for this income. It turns into just a little hamster wheel, and we just keep going back and forth. How many of you feel like you're stuck there? No, you're transaction income, transaction income, transaction income. It is what leads to that feeling, I think, of getting to the end of the year and being like, womp, 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 I have to do this again. Because there's not a lot of residual things that have occurred as a result of your hard work, because you've been very focused on this. Has nothing to do with how much money you have in your bank account. Truly has to do with your mindset, right? You could have millions of dollars in the bank and still be stuck on this little hamster wheel right here, where you're just tied to, I got to make the money, I got to do the transaction, I got to make the money, I got to do the transaction. What Jeff shows us that comes after this, and this is what I think is, a lot of us do this with our goal planning, is I call it our optioned life. And I'll be very transparent and tell you that I actually feel like I've just dipped my toe into this little pocket of the world. Some choices, right? To maybe come down here instead of be in the CRM today at work. The option to go on vacation for most of the month of August with my family. Some options that I've never had because I kept getting stuck in that income transaction cycle. So take a second here, and I want you to think, and this is very much like what's on the horizon, what's attainable for you, what do you know is around the corner. If you could break that income transaction cycle and you knew that that was no longer what you had to focus all of your time on, and your mind could expand a little bit, what are some of the things that would show up in your option life?
I've heard this asked too, if that doesn't resonate with you, is like, what does freedom look like? Right? Like, what can you be doing other than just a transaction?
Yeah. Yeah, we've got one bigger level at the top. So if you like have something absolutely insane and out of this world, save it for the top. But this should be like investment properties and paying off, student loans for kids. And it should be things that, like, I'm capable of doing this, right? This is something that's going to show up in my ability if I can really buckle down and start to get into some high income earning opportunities.
And helping pay down payments for 2 of our kids.
Perfect. Option life. That's amazing. Option life. That's amazing. Sharing.
I think for me personally, it's paying off debt and kind of helping taking the pressure off of my husband's shoulders.
Yes.
Because I've been a stay-at-home mom for 5 years. While he does it with grace, it just would be nice to kind of help him with the.
That's amazing.
One of the things that we do for our team members in the past is, what is your transaction goal? And then, but what happens when you surpass that? And so we always do like the buy one, get one situation, where if you close your 2 transactions in July, you know, the bonus one, what are you gonna do with that? Are you just take your kids on vacation? Are you gonna do something for your own self?
That's a great description of what this level is. Yeah. One of the things for me is, like, I finally felt like independently from my dad, that I was in a position where I was ready to talk to a financial planner and not feel like I had excuses to make or problems to solve. Like, that was a really big thing for me this year, being able to feel like in fact, it's Kyle Whistle's financial planner now that I just got connected with, like, being able to be like, oh, this is who I am now, right? This new kind of life that's not me just in the drudges of like income transaction. Who else has some option life things?
I think this is where imposter syndrome comes in.
100%. This is where it starts. And the problem is, if you let it in here, we've got 2 more levels to go. So you're going to be F's. Okay.
We really want investment properties, and we did just buy our first one.
Yay. Good job. Perfect. That's exactly where this goes.
I'm an upcoming wedding. Yeah, my daughter's getting paid.
Perfect.
So that's where every extra dollar's going. I'm gonna be coming in. She does.
So no one sound.
Yeah, so nobody tell her. Please don't watch the video live. I don't want to be yelling. She doesn't live.
I want to fly to Beaufort whenever I want to. I want to get my pilot's license, have a plane, and fly down here so I can be down here in how long? An hour and a half. That's my option life. I'm just giving you all my option lives.
You can fly down to Seattle.
Yeah.
For dinner.
Yeah. Or Battle 95. Jared, do you have anything? I'm just curious. I'm very curious. Anna in 2024 is a very curious person.
Yeah, finish the pilot's license, been playing, so I can, put in politics, back and forth between there, and I'm saying, so
Okay.
that's for me. It's not an investment.
Optionally.
Wait, did I say Anna was curious about something?
I've really embraced it this year. You should hear me. I ask so many questions now. It's really weird. I know I have because I have no natural curiosity. I've really fixed myself. Blake, I'm so curious. Option life. Like, what are those things that like you want to just have because you're not stuck in that cycle of yeah.
Allow myself to get there again.
Yeah.
Going to Ireland for a wedding in the summer. Yeah, going to Ireland. Yeah.
Oh, I was like, Allie's too. Same wedding. That makes sense. I might also be just inviting myself to the trip, not the wedding. So I might be there too. Yeah. So again, if you don't have a clear picture on what these things are, figure them out, right? The next level after this, and this is what I think becomes so important. And I can tell you that I know some agents in my market that I watched them get to that option life. And I know that they did because they got there before I did. And that little terrible thing called envy set in. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, that must be so nice. Look at her on vacation and I'm over here and I can't get off my phone for 5 seconds to even pay attention to my babies. And oh my gosh, look how amazing this office is that they bought. And how cool is this? And I mean, maybe it wasn't envy, but I think it was envy. And what I can tell you is when they reach that level, and what I really hope happens to me is that I don't reach that level, is that when they got in that position, what does your best self, best life look like? And what I saw in some of those people is I watched them take their foot off the gas. I watched them not be dedicated to putting value into their marketplace. I watched them disappear from social media because maybe the pressure wasn't there to be present. And I watched a little void kind of take the place of where they were in our agent community. I watched them leave a brokerage. I watched them lose agents. I started to see things unravel. And what I have to imagine is that once you are charged with this option life, that if you don't find what is your best self and live up to that best self, you have a really good opportunity to go right back down to that bottom very, very quickly. And I think vulnerably, I'm here right now where I have some choices that I can make. And I got to tell you how awesome my vacation was in August. But did I come back in September and was I the best leader I could be? Nope. I kind of was like, oh, that was really nice. Do I want to do this anymore? This is terrible, actually. My kids are so cute. I like them. I'm serious. These are all the real thoughts that I have. I'm being 100% transparent with what Anna's brain did over the last 6 to 8 weeks. Allison, I know you saw it. I checked out a little bit. I thought, you know what? I'm kind of good. This is kind of good. I could kind of get down with this. I know you did. And I had clients that said, are you okay? We feel like you're a little disconnected. This isn't how you normally are. Right? I got that little taste of that option life and I just kind of started veering. And then thankfully, I feel like I was able to recognize, there's a lot of work to be done. Not work, but there's a lot of value to put into my community. There's a lot of things that people need from me. I can't just say, well, I've got it. I got to now turn around and I got to become that best self. So for me, this is consistency in going to the gym. This is making sure that every agent on my team feels like there is a one-to-one connection to me at any point and that they're valued and that they feel significant in my world. So what are some of these things that you know are going to be important for you to continue if you could write out your best life? Also that my husband doesn't divorce me. Mine are sound things like, I want every single agent on my team to feel like they're a significant member of my team at any given time, that there's a one-to-one connection, no matter how large we scale, no matter how few sales or most sales that they have. How do I make sure that significance there? For me, it's also consistently going into the gym every single morning and making sure that I don't take my foot off the gas on that. It's now making sure that my kids know that when I'm in the car with them, that they have my full attention, right? So now you're even watching some of this spew over into just my personal life versus just being at work.
But, what you did, you realize that time is important, and like, it's not always about, you don't have to take that phone call right this second, like, it's not gonna self-destruct, it's a deal with it, you gotta take the call. But, as far as time and then adding value back to your agents, like you said, I have some agents that they're fine with a deal every couple of months, and that's what they want to do, and that's fine too, but they're just as important as the person that's bringing in, $16 million deal.
So can we challenge you to take that thought, coach me through this a little bit, but can we challenge you to take what you just said and turn that into almost like a goal? Because when we were talking about, like, what is this, like, unreal life look like, you said we want to have an investment property, or we want this, right? It was very like financially driven. So what she's saying is like, don't lose sight of becoming just that goal. How do we put goals in place for ourselves that we can articulate that are not just financially driven? Like, she wants to be present in the car when she's with her children. She wants each of her team members to feel like they have a one-on-one connection with her and the team leader. She as a person wants to be accountable that she's going to the gym every day. So how do we take like that thought process and make it into almost a goal of who we are when we get to that unreal life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
That's my time to kind of, unblind, if you're not attached to your phone or whatever. 30 minutes a day that you get, just watching whatever.
Does anybody have anything, like, we talked about gold and investment property and stuff, but with her saying that, does anybody have kind of their core, like, what they want to focus on as a person?
Best life.
So I came from a world that was very into this now, right? Caring. But for me, it was to be more present for my children. And having personally gone through some things in the last 4 years, that's really changed my mindset is how can I be the best for them? And how can I be present? And how can I make sure that my now 10-year-old daughter in 8 years, when she's going to college, has the best possible upbringing and raising us as a girl and my son and making sure I'm there for them. And my previous job was, while I was here in this county, I wasn't here physically, if that makes sense. So now for me, it's like, how can I be that person that's picking them up and being more present for them?
Mm-hmm.
So it really is something where it's a balance and hopeful to be able to.
Another one of mine was losing my ego at home, right? Stop walking in the door every day and talking about all the important things I did at work and how my time is so valuable and how high my dollar and hourly rate is. Losing my ego at home was a big one for me because, you get into that option life, you can start to feel a little bit more important. And that was a really big one for me. A really big measurable. Now, do I have all the steps for how I do that? No, but I can say when I start to hear those words start creeping out about how hard work was and how this, that, like I do remember, check the ego at home.
I think like I hear this and I understand this, and I think that's like, it all starts because we all want that, right? So you're like, I'm gonna work really, really hard right now. And I'm just gonna struggle really hard for the next 24 months so that I can buy those 4 investment properties, so they can make me this money, so that I can live my best life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it sometimes almost feels like a sacrifice to me, like I have to like sacrifice some of the short-term stuff to get to where I'm at, and it's like, you don't really have to really sacrifice it, you just have to learn to balance, and what I found a lot in my business is when I incorporated more balance, and I stopped taking those calls at 10 o'clock at night, because I didn't have to, they were still there for me at 8:30 in the morning, nothing changed except for me. I got more rest, like, your business almost grows more when you start putting some boundaries in place.
We can't work a minute.
Yeah, and that's what I found a little bit in my own business, like, those boundaries helped me get to this faster almost, without feeling like I was giving up the whole world.
Like Ross and I were talking on the phone, we had a long conversation. We were talking about kids and how it work and all that stuff. It works at home a lot, and just setting boundaries about like how you feel guilty about getting a phone call when you got kids, but like you're also kind of agitated with them because they're talking in the background. He's like, look, I'm just now it's like, look, I got kids with me. They're gonna probably start screaming. If you don't like it, then I can call you back tomorrow. But like right now, it's 9 o'clock at night. I'm sorry, I'm doing bedtime stuff. So and that's just Chris is good about that. Like I'll text him sometimes. He's like bedtime. He's like, I gotta talk to you later. So and I've tried to start incorporating that, and none of my deals have fallen apart. These people are still there in the morning. They actually respect you a little bit more because you are putting, setting the time for your family.
Being intentional, I think, having conversations around it and being.
And in my phase of life right now, I'm an empty nester.
Yeah.
And so what's happening for me is volunteer.
Yeah.
And, every week, I might not, sometimes I want to go to the food pantry, but I always feel so good when I go in and I'm done.
Yeah.
So I make myself go in a day, or I try to work my work schedule around the food pantry or the animal shelter.
Yeah.
It just gives me,
Serotonin.
Yeah.
It's so important.
It's very irrational fear, I'm putting out for the new agents in here, that like what Jared was saying, like that irrational fear of if I don't take this call, or I tell them I have to call them back, they're just not gonna wanna work with me. And that's just not, honestly, that's just not how it goes. Like if you believe in yourself and you know your worth and you hold yourself to that high level, they're going to see that in conversations. They're gonna be like, yeah, I get it, man, call me back. Like,
That's right. And you don't not take the call for 24 hours. You just don't take the call in that moment. And that's where a lot of people go awry. They'll be like, I don't have to take this call right now because I'm with the kids. But will you discipline yourself at 7:30, 8 o'clock when you're maybe ready to go binge watch Netflix for a while to stop and take the call? And that's where I think that best self comes in of like, yeah, absolutely. I want to make sure that my ego is checked at home. I want to make sure that my kids know that I'm attentive. But I also know that if I'm going to continue to stay in this business, I'm going to do it with intention and integrity. And so that's absolutely where you start working out some of these pieces. And newer agents, it should be really helpful for you to understand that like, it's not like you just get all of these things in 5 minutes. This is a long progression. I'm being very transparent. I feel like I just have started to feel some of those option life goals of mine start to happen. And I've been at this for 8 or 9 years. It's not to say it to discourage you. It's just don't think that you're going to have this dialed in 12 months. You're not. But this again is something that you can go back to and you can say, but this is why when at the end of the week, when it was hard, why I kept showing up the next week and kept doing the same thing instead of being like, oh, typical real estate agent with that high attrition rate, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, because we know what we're building for. So his last component of this is this unreal life. And I thought this was such a cool example. So we talked about Jeff growing up. He talked about how at the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, having like a brand new, I'll say Mastercraft because we're Mastercraft owners. He said ski nautique, but whatever. Brand new Mastercraft, like, wake setter or wake boat, like, $250,000. Like that was the pinnacle of success, right? Like you literally, like, that's the best of the best. And he knew that because that's what was around him, right? And so oftentimes when we're trying to formulate this life that we want for ourselves, it's very much built on the constraints of what we know to be true because of what we've seen and what people have told us are possible. And so Jeff talked about how that was like his unreal life thing. He wanted to get that ski nautique. And Jeff just was speaking in Miami last week, and he shipped his like 60-foot cruiser on a truck down to Miami so that he could stay on it for like 3 nights and go out. But like the Jeff that was like, I want that ski nautique so badly, had no idea that like buying a 70-some or 60-some foot cruiser and shipping it down to Miami for a 3-day stay
was even in the realm of possibility. So I think this next part is really hard to figure out because you're very much going to say, well, this is what I want because this is based on like what I know to be possible. And so this, I don't even have figured out, but I will tell you kind of my one big thing in this category here is that I have this very strange, very weird, very hyper fixated ADHD brain that I do love and I think serves me well. And I like to get really into things. I like my kids wanted to play hockey last year and I was like all freaking in. Like that's all I wanted them to do. Today, they don't care that much about it because they realize they have to get up on Saturday morning and they don't enjoy it that much. And they wanted to go on the boat this summer. So that was fine. I want to live a life where I can hyperfixate on the things that I want to hyperfixate and I can do and achieve. And this is what Allison was talking about, that freedom of doing what I want with who I want, when I want, right? Without any of that restriction. And so for me, my unreal life is being able to let my hyperfixated ADHD brain just do whatever it wants and to do it without reservation or fear or worry about, can we do this? Should we do this? Is it possible? So really figuring out, that was like a really big takeaway for me, because that to me is what freedom feels like. So figuring out for you, what is this kind of unreal life that you'll only achieve once you've gone through these levels? And there are going to be days where you're going to feel like I'm back in the trenches of this income transaction thing, but just realizing that like you've got your entire career and your entire lives to dial this in. And if you're very clear on what these things are, even if they change because things in your life change or your stage of life changes, that you're always going back to something like this. I think this goes really closely hand in hand with these chemicals that we've talked about, because you need the dopamine hits to drive that first level, but then you've got to make sure that you don't just stay there. You've got to then make sure that you've got the oxytocin, the serotonin. You can hear some of us talking about spending more time with our children or being more present with our parents and things like that, because we can focus on those things now and just kind of leveling up. And from 8 years, 9 years of doing this, I think this resonated with me, and probably more than it would have when I first got started. I probably would have like gone through the exercise a little bit differently. But I think longevity is going to be what we all need to focus on. And I think if 2024 taught me anything, it taught me that. And for a lot of us that really cut our teeth and got really busy in, a post 2017-18, sales cycle, this year was in some ways just really freaking hard. And just kind of going back to all the reasons why we're doing what we're doing, I think can be really crucial. Allison always talks about this very well. But I think this is a really good formula. So I hope you can use it. That's all the motivation I have for today.
Okay, we have 1 hour, so we'll turn. So I know we want to talk about circle prospecting. So thank you for that, Anna.
You're welcome.
So we have people that talk about circle prospecting, and I believe that this is something that is important, because we are losing deals at a team level, I know, because we are not going in and taking advantage of leveraging our listings, right? So Anna, you got your playbook, right?
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm hoping that there's one of those that does not watch.
She's not. She would not, she would not find this entertaining.
Okay, well, we were both like, oh. We are live streaming. You good? Okay, so Anna and I are gonna kind of tag team on this, but, and if you guys have anything that you're doing, please throw in, kind of into the conversation. But what I think as a team, what we encourage our agents to do is when you get a listing, and if you're a brand new agent and you don't have a listing, then circle prospect new listings. You can do this in a way that it is, this house just hit the market, right? You don't have to say it is my listing. But 10 to 25 surrounding homes minimum is like the starting number for me. If you want to do like the very long-winded version, you can go into BC Gov. If you're in the Beaufort market, you can circle prospect via piece by piece, like house by house through BC Gov. You can then backtrack and look up through white pages. I think what's important is not just sending a letter, but it's sending a letter making the call. You can also do it through, like, I know Anna's like logging into Mojo now, and she's gonna show you how she does it through Mojo. And how do you guys circle prospect?
Well, depends, if, it's all targeted, if we want something specific, we'll go through the MLS and pull up listings, old listings that are
Right.
sold from 2018, 2020.
Right.
Whether it's cash buyers, FHA, or whoever.
Right.
And what was important to, Vulcan.
And the Vulcan, the
Yeah.
default.
Yep.
Is anybody else circle prospecting for their listings? What do you guys, y'all go through?
Well, we do prop stream, typically use a list, that's where we're getting, right, Lauren, that's where we're getting our 25 to 50.
Yep.
And then, so they do, it goes in a order of a mail order, call, a text, an email, and then back again.
We've talked about this, and I don't want to skip you, right, but we've talked about this, and this is so important because everybody stops at like the mail and the call, or they'll stop at the, well, I sent the letters. Okay, well, we were having that conversation, you've got to do so much, so can you dive in just a little bit on that, like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we found that like those that, like you could see, you know, that they're open in emails and like all of those kind of things. If you're sending them a text message, which is what a lot of people were just doing instead of making a phone call, they're not responding at all. But then you pick up the phone and they're like, oh, I absolutely am. I think the phone call is the most important, but I think that the other things are to get that facial recognition. First of all, they see you on the mailer, like all of that, but it's no one of them is good.
Enough.
All of them.
Right.
And I didn't say that well.
I also
but-
have a
yeah.
little win for us that I just found out this morning off of the circle prospecting that we do on our open houses. We're now having our director of ops send out a batch email through follow-up us to the community, hey, we're hosting an open house. And we interviewed for a listing that's down the road for one of these homes that we open housed in. And the agent talked to me this morning and he was like, oh, just want to let you know, by the way, I'm in big trouble because my clients got this email that you were open housing. They wanted to know why I wasn't open housing too and all this stuff.
They actually called the
So,
HOA.
I mean,
Shut
it's,
up.
those batch emails are working, like send them at it to
We're
the.
sending batch emails out.
In prop stream, so you're doing, so you're saying you're batching your whole database, or you're just batching your prop stream list?
So we're doing
For
it
the
by,
open house, like it's a process that the director of ops has, but when we get to that open house portion of it, she's sending out a batch email to. If it's not the 20 to 40 neighboring, like.
small neighborhoods, for
People,
example,
it
this
is-
neighborhood has 88 people, we're touching the whole damn neighborhood.
Right,
You know, if it's like Mossy Oaks, we'll do 50.
right, but you're getting, the emails you're getting are the ones from prop stream, and you're
Correct.
just dumping it into the database, and then you're saying, hey, we're having an open house.
Correct.
One step,
But we also send them a mailer and invite them.
Debated on those emails and cross-training, like that should be good.
I think they're pretty good, to be honest with you, because I fact checked a few of them, from clients I had in my database, and they were pretty good.
It's follow-up boss, is that what y'all are using that with?
They're just importing it and following
Are
up.
they, just like, even out to make those are good?
Absolutely. Especially if it's very specific, your neighbor's home is for sale. You know, like, if our random emails that we're sending, like newsletters, no, like, they're not opening.
They're ignoring those.
But yes, if it's your neighbor at blah, 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 that's why I think it's circle prospecting is so important and not just random.
They talked about this at EXPCon too, is that is a really important step, but what's even a more important step, I don't remember who he was saying, he was talking about this, but she said, they do the invite to the neighbors and it's the free open house. So they either do the day before or they do like 2 hours before the actual open to the
Like a
public.
VIP event.
And it's a VIP and it says, look, if you've got any clients or if you've got any friends or family that want to be in the neighborhood, or if you just want to come over and do a meet and greet, they're doing a pre-open
Well,
house for their open house.
Allison, I got this from Anna, but I'm sending out a letter on behalf of my clients, but I'm sending it as the client.
I read yours and I think it is.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
Oh, yeah, that's hers. Mine is hers is mine.
Inviting.
You just have them sign it, right?
Yeah, or I have them like sign off on it. Hey, are you okay if I send this out? Like, are you good with this?
yeah, so
And
they'll
they're
be
usually
like,
like.
it'll be like,
"Okay."
hey, I just listed my home with Eli Harris of the Greco.
So this-
EXP Realty, and then.
This is what we have them send out.
Oh, yeah, we need.
That's the one you're using, right?
Yeah.
So we get our seller's permission, we share it with them. You can see, Shen's using it right now. One of our, EXP partners in North Carolina. But literally like this is, from, sorry, she's gone and edited these links, so I have to go back to our templates, but, we just send out this and we just let people know like, hey, it's coming from the sellers. Like, we don't put our return address on it. We'll just run a batch labels of our sellers because and we don't worry too much about scrubbing neighborhoods for other agents that live in the neighborhoods or marketed homes on this one because it's not coming from us.
You're doing the legwork, you're doing the sending, but it appears.
And the script to that is, Allison, I know you're ready to get your home sold. We actually find that your neighbors can be really great ISAs for your home. An ISA is an inside sales agent. We know that they oftentimes have people in the past that have identified that they'd love to live in your neighborhood. And so we want to make sure that we put your entire neighborhood to work for you instead of just having a couple of them show up as nosy neighbors at your open house. So we pitch it that way. Usually I've never had a seller not want to send it. So we send our first letter before we even hit the market. This just has a little bit of our timeline. We pull all of our data from Mojo because it links directly to Follow Up Boss and it's very easy for us to manipulate, but you can see all the gray areas or neighborhoods that we have had listings in that we've pulled. So you can just go in and draw your boundaries. I click a single button. They all show up into Follow Up Boss. For those of you that are importing them into your CRM, just make sure you're tagging them, you're using your sales funnel appropriately. They come in for us as farm additions. So I can go in here. Farm additions is what we call them. So like, I know Andrew's got a few here, so I can go to stage. I can always look at any of the people that he's farming because they're under the stage farm addition until they engage with something we've sent, and then they'll enter our sales funnel. So we don't, a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to pull these people into my databases. I don't want to confuse myself with all these leads, but they're not leads. These are farm additions. So just tag them, or not tag them, but stage them appropriately in your CRM. But once in here, right, if you have a home bot or our team's on Fellow, right, they're automatically getting Fellow integration, which is huge for circle prospecting because now they're on, if we've got good emails and good addresses, we've got them on Fellow integration. And so right here, you can even see like a little preview without even having to open Fellow, which was a really amazing upgrade for Follow Boss. But he's able to go through very quickly and see propensity scores, which is how likely they are to list, and how many opens. So again, we know this one right here has had an open in the past, opened back in August, and you can see what happened there. They started on to a drip campaign. In all fairness, our agent's done none of this work.
Well, you should also like.
It's all done. I'll do it. I'll be like, hey, Andrew, there are like 30 agents looking at this file.
Live streaming, so like.
And this is live streamed on YouTube. Call this guy, man.
That's from Allison and not you, and I mean.
He'll know.
It's like.
Same thing. Same thing. Yeah. So anyways, that's that. Let me go back to this.
What do you guys do? What do you feel like working? You were gonna say something.
Well, we pulled a list in the neighborhood, but that will pull like broader, like 2 miles outside of the neighborhood.
Triple dial. Are you doing mailing or anything?
We used to do mailers.
An appointment, they had our,
Mailer out,
prospecting thing around the counter, he's like, I got the mail, but.
But we've also had them hand us other people's mail.
Yeah, I usually will get a couple pieces with mine if I go on an appointment.
That's why we're not spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we're doing that out prop stream, they're what, 40 cents a piece or something like that. We had done all the companies and good God, $10,000 later.
And it's what I said, to hire somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
prop stream's easy.
Yeah.
But we do run a neighborhood open on almost every single listing that we have. I was trying to find another agent's
The
neighborhood
neighborhood
open.
open, is it only for the neighborhood? Is that?
Yeah, so we use this guy right here, put our agent's face on it.
So Jess is, while you're doing this, Jess is doing one of these right now, and so she printed out 30 of them at Staples, and they're like a little, if you're invited. But then what she did was she did a graphic like this, and she texted it to me, because she knows that I sold 3 or 4 houses in the neighborhood. And so she asked her seller to text it. She sent it to 2 people she sold in the neighborhood, and said, can you guys text it? And then she sent it to me, and I sent it to my 4 people I've sold and asked them to text it out.
Mhm.
So it's gonna be like a cocktail hour.
Or if there's like a Facebook page in the neighborhood, something like that.
Or next door, the next
Yeah,
door, that's the big one.
I kind of love that though, giving your seller tools that they can copy and paste really easily, you know what I mean? 100%.
They do.
House looked better than it's ever looked, you know?
They want people to come by. And we always tell them, you know, it'd be a lot better for us to just go ahead and manage your nosy neighbors the night before at an open specifically for them. They can mix and mingle instead of us having to try to capture potential buyers and manage your nosy neighbors on Saturday, Sunday. So I can always get this done.
Yeah.
And we do it across all price points. We don't save this for higher price point neighborhoods. I mean, this was like a $350,000 house. And I know, this is a funny one. This is one that, this is a neighborhood that Chris got this listing from a referral from an agent who has left the business, who lives in a neighboring neighborhood, used to own this area. He's got another listing coming in this neighborhood because he did a record sale on this one because he did his job.
And we'll drop this, a copy of this in our flow test that we send to everybody so that you guys can just make a copy, ping it, put it in Canva, use it, execute.
One thing that we do when we circle prospect, when what I encourage our agents to do is when we get them on the phone, we're like, hey, we're trying to invite you to the open house, we're having one, blah, blah, blah. We're like, hey, listen, I'm also gonna drop off a couple like CMAs for some other people in the neighborhood. Would you like me to add you to the list? I can just leave it on your door. And they're like, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. So I'm like, hey, everybody wants to know what their house is worth, you know, blah, 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 see that. And then we're just dropping it off, you know what I mean? Then we're putting them in home out and doing other things. And then they have questions on it, so then they text us like, hey, I saw this, like, is that right? Right,
Yeah.
let's chat about that, you know?
Big ball up.
And even, yeah, and even if they're, we may not really be dropping any CMAs off, but if they say yes.
That's right. That's right. Sure am.
I was like, hey, I'm already running a couple for the neighbors, so I'm already like in all the information, I'm gonna add your house to it. Most of the time they say, yeah, because people are curious, and so.
Mhm.
Can we touch base on,
I like
do you like for CMAs right now?
I've been using the RPR a lot,
Yeah.
because it's such an easy.
RPR is like, I don't know, like, realistic RPR gives you.
No, I don't like that, but I'm telling you, it's such a quick
Yeah,
reference.
it's like a baseline.
So I just don't print out the comps, I just do the quick snapshot of it,
Yeah.
and it's a really fast way to like.
Hey, what do you mean a snapshot of the first part?
I just don't print out like 43 pages.
Like just the first thing or just the stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and keep in mind that whenever we do that, we have like a letter that if you send it out, it's like, hey, like this is just a baseline of what your house could go for based on square footage in the year and stuff. Like, I'd love to get in and actually walk it with you, like, let's see the upgrades, blah, 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 just to get your foot in the door.
But you do like the RPR versus like cloud CMA or,
Yeah, for me, it's just fast and easy.
yeah.
But I will say the little tactic, I don't know what training session we were in, that they said, have you guys tried you take a snapshot, a screenshot of Zillow, their Zestimate, and you text it to them and you say, hey, what do you think about this Zestimate on your house? And then you just let them respond. Even if it's high or if it's low, it at least makes them say like,
We saw that, Tina posted that, I have agents doing that are getting like really good traction and setting.
really good responses.
We just started sending prop sharing CMAs and I love them.
Oh,
Love them. It gives you a lot of information.
And it's free with your prop stream subscription?
Yep, I did one this morning. I ran the actual CMA and then I was like, hey, I want to send this out to them. It was spot on.
Wow,
Oh, cool.
Spot on.
good to know.
hmm.
Sure, it's a very cheap, affordable tool that I think we can all use.
Anna, what do you feel about fellows?
I love it.
What do you like about Fellow?
I was
We
thinking about
need to know more.
I love it. $1,000 a month worth.
I pay for it, so I'm just asking how much do you feel like it's?
Yeah. Yes, because I feel like it is a touch that's higher value than any of the marketing that we send out that gets engagement, that allows our agents to continue circle prospecting and working those data points that we've brought into our database way long after the dopamine hit of the home sale is gone.
So,
I think it has promoted longevity in our database.
I agree. I just had a guy who's literally, 2.5 million on a house and. card or and I just saw it, so I figured I'd stick it in there, but like, I wouldn't talk to him today.
No, otherwise I wouldn't.
Not often, but HomeBot AI, like, I think Allison, I can show you that.
We use HomeBot on our team.
Chris Enfield has said it's changed his business over the last few.
Wait, HomeBot or Fellow?
HomeBot.
HomeBot versus Fellow.
HomeBot is really fine if you're, I think, solopreneur, single agent, like on a team, like it's not scalable as well as Fellow is. Fellow is much more scalable. It is more expensive. And I think that Fellow has some of the cash offer opportunities that I don't know that HomeBot has caught up on. And
We got that for here, and it is, like, they're doing those, and we can get them, but I can't get them to connect. You know what I'm saying? As far as the actual offers that they're sending in there, and which a lot of them, I mean, they sent one with $600 on a house the other day, 400.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I
Are
don't
you
know, like,
certified on them? Is that where you make like 1% on it?
express offers with EXP. Mm-mm.
So do you get paid on that?
Yeah, it just becomes a seller lead. But realty.com, if you pay for their leads and it's a seller that's looking for a cash offer, they've paired with this other company to provide cash offers because they found that agents were not good at navigating those conversations, which you should be. It's a very simple phone call. I can absolutely get you a cash offer. If you're willing to take 20% under market value, I can have someone that will write you a contract today. It's me. I'll write it. I'll write it today. And I'll buy it tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a very, if you really understand the mechanics of it, it's one of the easiest lead flows that come into your database is someone looking for a cash offer. Because oftentimes, and here's the other thing with that I've really learned, when you get those cash offers, we get real seller focused. All right. We get really in the weeds on, well, this is what your home is worth. And this is what the listing process looks like. In fact, we used to auto our like pre-listing database or drip campaign on those leads because we were like, well, they clicked a cash offer. Like we needed to show them how we can take their home to market. Here's the reality. A lot of times when they're making that click, you need to go buyer side heavy because a lot of times is they're looking for, well, what can we afford if we go buy? And so you're speaking the seller language when where their brain is actually at when they're clicking those seller leads is actually buyer driven. So we made that small swap and we took the pre-list drip off of our cash offer leads and we gave them a buyer drip and we have been much better at converting them ever since. Because if you understand where they are in the sales funnel, oftentimes they're not as we think, oh man, they're ready to give their house up today. This is a sale. But the reality is there's actually about 2 steps up on the sales funnel. They're trying to figure out, well, if I run a mortgage calculator, what can I run?
So how many people have listings that should be coming up in the next 3 to 6 months, but they're in that, they don't know where they're gonna go, or they don't know what they're gonna buy, or maybe they're moving out of Beaufort and they're going somewhere else, but they don't have a house in the new build community in Greenville or whatever, like, that's what she's talking about.
That's who that is.
Sellers, and then there's the disappointment because they're not come listings.
No.
They're like, I actually need to just explore what's going on, and if all you do is focus on selling their house, they're not gonna move as fast to that sales funnel if you don't help solve their problem, which is the carrot at the end of the tunnel. Where are you gonna go? What are you gonna buy? So get them really excited about buying so that they can move faster through that sales funnel, and then you get the listing faster.
Make sure you get that referral form signed.
I got a guy, we're closing next week, and they're all on, like, they don't even go to them, and now he's sending me stuff that we're filming up there, I mean, there's a lot of people that are getting the heck out of here, and it's like a nice exodus on Dosh Hall, and then with the flood stuff, people are pissed off with that.
Margaret, have y'all seen how many listings are on Margaret? Oh my God. Yeah. Happy Island. Yeah, Happy Island.
Hey, it's horrible. Good luck.
Any good deals?
No, because they all have $40,000 special assessments and no insurance.
Uh-huh.
All right, so was this helpful? Does anybody want to dive into this or have any questions or?
I'll just add this. I want to add this letter. This your greatest chance at a circle prospecting referral from your seller is the day you go under contract. Do not ask for referrals at the end of the process after you have drugged them through 30 days of the fucking hell that has been every transaction we've had in 2024. Ask them for the referral when the dopamine is high and they've got it under contract. So this is one of the best ones. I think this is the most powerful one. If you missed the first one, by all means, just jump in here. This is literally a letter from your seller to the neighborhood recommending you as an agent. Now you tell them at the very beginning, listen, when we go under contract, there's a mailer that I'd really appreciate if you could send out. We build our business off of referrals. We love your neighborhood. We've done all the research. We know your neighborhood. We've now met tons of your neighbors. We're just asking for a referral. We'll facilitate the mailing, but would you be okay signing off on this? The day that they get a contract, they'll sign off on this. 30 days later, you piss them off and they won't. I'm being honest. In this way, yes. I'm not wrong. No one's happy. They're not happy in Raleigh. I don't know if they're happy down here, but ain't nobody happy in Raleigh.
I was just curious about sales funnel that you were talking about. We don't operate like that. Can you go into
Yeah.
We also have a full on, like I have like a 3-hour training on a sales funnel. And if we don't have it, we can also do an agents empowered training, and back a little bit on sales funnel. Well, I think it's just for sales funnel training of like, when you get a lead, like the understanding of the different buckets of it. So she'll go through this.
CRMs are usually pre-filled with all these categories like hot, warm, cold, nurture, twice a week, yellow, orange, green, blue. I mean, like there's all kinds of just like non-universal language that the CRMs are set up to have initially. And so what our team did is we systemized our sales funnel, and I can show you where this is really quite amazing. It's actually in our Follow Up Boss, because we can actually go through and I can take a look at all of the leads in play for any particular agent, and I can figure out what do they have in what bucket of that sales funnel. I know I have 9,000 tabs open, and I guarantee you that was an open Follow Up Boss tab right next to it, but there's no need to judge me for that. Okay. I'm gonna show you how organized my sales funnel is. Let's just leave it at that, okay? So our smart lists are literally set up where I can see right here, I can go to everyone. I can see all of the sales or the subscribers. These are people that have just come into our database for some reason. So a realty.com lead, a real scout lead, a real scout lead, a realty.com, a phone call, right? And I can see where they are. This is my bad. This is one of mine. This is a for sale by owner that we have pending. So I can just go ahead and move this person into my sphere of influence at this point, because I mean, they love us and now we're not representing them. There's no sale from them. So I can change that, but I can go in here and I can see every single person that's in this subscriber phase. They only stay in this phase 21 days. So that's only why you see 19 people here, but I can very quickly, easily see what do we have going on here. When's the last time they were touched? Marketing qualified, we've identified some kind of curiosity. They stay in this phase about 90 days with us. So we've got 428 people that have worked their way down the sales funnel in one way or another, right? So that we know where they are. So this is someone who's identified by curiosity. We know that they have some motivation to transact in real estate. We may not have all the pieces of the puzzle put together, but we know that this was significantly more than Bob clicking on my link because he's trying to put his ex-wife's email in every subscriber thing to piss her off. You know what I'm saying? We got more meat on the bone here. And then we have sales qualified, which means we've had belly to belly interactions. We have belly to belly sales going on. So yeah, how do we survive? I can go in here and I can say, wow, we have 172 people in our database that are in the belly to belly sales process right now. And so what's great about this, just for anyone's perspective, is I can go in and I can look at, you know, a newer agent on our team and say, okay, what does your pipeline look like, Amy? You've got 2 right now that you're in the midst of belly to belly sales with. You are, you've got 5 people that you've identified curiosity. This is an agent that's been with us for a couple weeks. You've got 1 subscriber. Like that to me looks like a pretty healthy timeline for an agent who's actually also balancing some new construction sales with me. And I can go in here and I can easily see, you know, what does communication look like and those kind of things directly from her. So we we finalized that sales funnel as a way to understand what did we have in our world. Oh, I can't find it because there's 18 different, there it is. So that when we sat down with our agents, we could actually have the same language and know exactly what it meant.
And how long did it take you?
For it to normalize, it took about 6 months.
We're kind of doing that, just not efficiently.
Uh-huh.
So
I mean, it comes easier, right, as you get leads to come through initially, but that's why, so sphere of influence, farm editions, expireds even, that we're pulling, we don't even put them in subscriber. We put our expireds, they come in as expireds. And that's the stage they stay in until we get interaction with them. Because they didn't even opt into our database, we put them there. So they're not even a subscriber in our sales funnel. And that's how we were able to have a really clear picture of what does our true database edition look like? And what does all the ancillary people that we're trying to become part of our database through batch emails, through phone calls, through text messages, through information mining to be sure that they're there.
Agents are like, I don't want all of these people in my database. And like the answer is that you should want your database as big as it can be. You should want to be adding 200 people into your database a day if possible, right?
Correct.
But the way that you systematize your database is the reason why agents say things like, stop putting all these people in my database. There's so many people in there. And it's like, it's because you don't have it cleaned from a tag standpoint that you can utilize the database correctly.
Yep.
So if you figure out how to manage your database better, you'll understand that the more people that are in your database, the better. The more that you can then re-engage your database through systems like HomeBot or Fellow or things like that, then that's when they actually enter your sales funnel.
Yeah, Fellow to me is worth it because it is a huge connector between a farm edition and a subscriber. That's why Fellow is worth $1,000 to me every single month. That's the metric. It's not the sale that I got from Fellow, right? I think I said it earlier. It's a database connector. That's why I love it, because we are bringing hundreds of people into our database all the time, but I need to get them into our sales funnel. And Fellow is one of the best tools that we use for that, because they don't feel like it's a realtor asking for something. They feel like it's just a value add that they can privately use. And all that does is give us insight into and give us a reason to make that call.
It didn't have address.
But Fellow will send them, and this is what makes Fellow better than HomeBot. Fellow will send them an email and seek their address. They will, but they do send emails that will seek their addresses.
Yeah.
And we have had a handful, I would say, per quarter that were true online buyer leads that we had no information about as far as a home goes that have filled in mailing information for us.
Use Maya, right? Is that right, Marina? And that little AI bot scrubbed that database, and they basically would be like, it's the wrong number for you, and literally like a third of the database was like, yeah, that number is wrong, but if we would have done it, we were never gonna get those numbers.
crazy.
It was crazy, and then this little AI bot was like.
It's because the bot doesn't have feelings.
Database. And so it's
It's like social.
And my mother's maiden.
She made me appointed at
I better be at the bar.
Yeah.
Did you guys keep it? Did you guys keep it?
No, we didn't.
We didn't keep it because here's why. We had half of our team that hated it.
You can turn her in.
And half the team.
Where were you?
Because you needed to intervene. You needed to stop the robot.
Yeah.
The robot did not have a soul. The robot was just going to keep asking questions. And if you as an agent weren't watching your database and would say, oh, this person's engaged with the robot, let me stop this robot.
So it doesn't stop when.
No, it's like, I'm not looking anymore.
Somebody and they're still like.
Yeah, you know all the details, yeah.
So think about the system, but you do have to stop it at some point. There has to be human intervention at some point.
I personally like them.
I really like.
They were very friendly.
I mean, was she similar to like Boomtown's little AI?
No, I think she was way better.
She was
Way
so
better.
good. She was so good.
She was way better.
But we probably need to sit down as a 2025 goal, and we probably never talked, like, we need to look at Fellow, we need to look at Homebot, we need to figure out what this does for our database and how it works. The thing is from a team leader's perspective, it is hard, like, a lot of these are so amazing, like, when you're a solo agent and you're just running that business. But when you start leveraging out to other people, you gotta get a whole crowd on board, right? And there's a system to it, you can't just let Riot take over.
Which all of a sudden, I didn't even know what was happening. I mean, I didn't know we had Riot until I'm like, who the heck is this? I mean, you know, Allison will give you some, you don't even know you have it. Allison, like, hey, you got follow up boss and Riot.
How do you handle your cross training with your team?
So the way that we do it is that if like Eli gets the listing and Eli says, hey, look, I'm cross-checking this listing, I just pull the list for him and I give it to him. He can use our admin to import that list into his database. We have gone away as a team, so a lot of you guys will probably know, but we used to be on a toggle commission split, which meant that if it was a self-procured lead, you were paid more, and if it was a team procured lead, the team was paid more. We went away from that and we went to a structure that we felt like benefited the agent more, and there was less conversation about whose lead was it. So it doesn't matter if I pay for a $50 or $200 prop stream list for Eli. The goal is that Eli just grows the business.
Correct. So one that I have is like, so. Prop training does a whole lot more than just lists, right? And like the information and stuff like that when you're calling and all, but it's like, how do you give that to the
When you
team?
don't, like, right?
You know what I mean?
They don't have your prop stream login. They're getting
Yeah.
their list from.
So, I mean, a few of the agents do have the prop stream login, and any of our agents, if they want it, could ask for it, we would give it to them, but I mean, within reason of not spending $5,000 a month for prop stream.
Right.
But the difference is that no agent has the capacity to actually do as much as they think they really wanna bite off in the beginning, right? So if you wanted to do it that way, you could download the prop stream list, you could put it in, make a tag, and then you could disperse through a pond. Do follow-up boss, I don't know if this exists or not.
Yep.
Also.
You can do a round robin. So we have agents and we say, who wants on for sale by owners this month, who wants on expireds? And we pay, I think it's $50 for the expireds and $25 a month for the for sale by owners. And 3 times a week, Haley, my assistant, just goes in. So again, like, we don't have any cold hard killers on the expireds game, but we have Fellow, we have all this infrastructure, we have these great drip campaigns. So why not just try to nurture these folks that we know are in the process of potentially like interviewing agents? So again, if you were going to focus on expireds, this doesn't work. But if you want a way to grow your database, this works really well. We pull all the expireds in, they go on a round robin for all the agents that are on our team that want expireds that month. Same with the for sale by owners, and they just round robin out. They get them 3 or 4 times a week delivered straight to their inbox. And again, I'm not going in there and being like, well, I dropped you this expired. It's like, when are you going to call them? Because I know that ultimately, like, it's a database ad. And if we glean something from it, great. That's not going to work if you're like, I want to go get expireds. You need to have Vulcan, you need to have your dialer, you need to get to work, right? This is ancillary, like, business opportunities off of database additions. So don't confuse that for working expireds. That does not count, right? What I said does not count. Why? I think I look great. I think we can. This has been really great, guys. Thank you so much for following along. I hope the last 30 minutes was